first of all, I don't know if these look familiar to you, John, but they're street Volkswagen Wayfarers. You probably have a pair right there. You gave me like 17 pair. Oh, he's got a congruent mug.
Yeah, we
got a hat in the background.
Flag, all the time, whatever.
This was totally unplanned. But you made me pack like 7 of these in my suitcase. And so my kids and I, we still have these years later. That's what happens when you buy like promo items that aren't trash. They're really good, actually. So, but we're also joined by who we got? Duncan Movassaghi. And he is an executive vice president of sales and marketing for Volkswagen. So I think we have a really great combo of chairman of the dealer council and an EVP that's really first point of contact with the higher ups. I believe he's probably second in command of Volkswagen of America. So we have going to talk about dealer OEM relationships. And I think there's no one better to hear than these really, you're representative of the dealers, Duncan representative of the OEM, and we're going to talk about your relationship, how it's played out over the course of this pandemic, and get a little behind the scenes view. Duncan, welcome to the program as well.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I know it's great to, we haven't spoken face to face. We had some text conversations, and I guess we both kind of trust John enough to jump on this call. Now John's got all these grievances he's going to talk about.
Yeah. Well, that would be nothing new for Duncan.
I was going to say that'll be the second time today then.
So let's start. I think I just want to paint a little context so that make sure everybody has great background. John, you've done something really special with a Volkswagen store in Amarillo, Texas, starting a brand new store with no previous store. It was a brand. I caught that. I don't know if everybody saw that.
That was impressive.
I just pull my best David Letterman out of the hat. And so you started a brand new Volkswagen store in Amarillo, Texas. If you've never been there, it's West Texas. It's steaks and pickup trucks. And you I'm going to let you tell the story of what that started, but your market share is insane. From the last time I talked to you a couple of years ago, it's gotten even better. So set some context there in the store, and then we're going to let Duncan talk about what he does. And then I want you both really to just tell the story of how this pandemic has rolled out and how it's affected your relationship. So John, go ahead.
Well, it's really good that you talked about that relationship with the brand, because we realized that very early on. 7 years ago, coming in, there was roughly 700 Volkswagens and 200,000 people, and most of those were either dune buggies or golf carts. I mean, they weren't anything that was going to come into my service drive. So we realized very quickly what had to happen, and we jumped on councils and we met with the brand and we really talked and we learned and we figured out how do you do it. And then we just took old school, right? Just old school dealer. Be a part of the community, get out in the community and do as much as you can. And that's what we've been so known for, and slowly, gained that share that you talked about, and realizing that so many people still today, it's just transportation. Yes, you have that person that has to have the perfect car, the exact color, that exact interior, that exact model. But for a lot of people, it's just 4 wheels that powers and gets them to work. And that's where we really focused. We focused on cars that are very safe, cars that get great gas mileage. And we went and built a car company within a truck world. 7 out of 10, probably 8 out of 10 if you put SUV in Amarillo, or trucks or SUVs. So
okay, I don't want to let you undersell this for a second, because you are, like, in my mind, like the ultimate automotive excuse killer. So every other like VW dealer in the country all of a sudden was like, oh crap, John just took all my excuses away. So you had 0 market share. And
none.
What's the average VW market share across the country?
Duncan, is it 2.6, 2.8?
That was the number I thought.
Yeah, look, as a brand, we're at 2.3, but if you look at competitive share for a typical dealer, I think 3.7, something like that.
And in truck country, pickup truck country, state country, if it's moving in the field, we have to shoot it country. John, what is your market share currently?
Well, last year we came in about 11.9, and currently the last couple of months we've been up in that 17, 18 range.
Okay, so I just wanted to contextualize that in case you didn't say it, because there is a lot of credibility behind those numbers. So go ahead, continue on.
But I have to thank Duncan also, because of Atlas and Crossport and getting us in that SUV world, a new Tiguan. We knew, especially for us, we knew that Crossport and Atlas was going to be a monster, because most people, they have their F-250, their big truck, they tow their trailer, and then mama drives a Yukon or a Suburban, but kind of hates it because of how big it is. Mm-hmm. And we have that perfect vehicle right in between that's got the size, got the third row seat, but drives a lot like a sedan.
Yeah.
And boy, the more we got it out, we did a great thing. We cut a deal with the mall. our mall is like the only mall for 100 miles, typical, Texas.
Mhm.
And so we have them inside the mall. And that was wonderful for us because people just walk through and they're like, wow, what is that big, beautiful Volkswagen?
Mhm.
And it's a different marketing. And it's different for every market. We understand that. But working your community, loving on the community, and making it a part of it is what truly has been our success, as you know.
Well, thank you for that setup. We're going to pivot over to Duncan. Duncan, can you just tell us a little bit about your trajectory and what got you to where you are now, and then what you see as your main function within Volkswagen?
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Really great to be on the show, and I'm sorry we didn't manage to actually connect properly beforehand. It would have been lovely to have a conversation, but good to see you now. I had seen your photo with the cap on, and I was wondering about wearing mine. And in fact, I do have a set of those Amarillo sunglasses as well, but I couldn't put my hand on them. So we got some when we went down to John's store, along with a load of other nice little goodies that he and the team provided. But you can probably tell from my accent, I'm actually British. So I came across the US 2.5 years ago with the brand. I worked about 10 years with the group, mostly in the United Kingdom. And I have an American wife. It had always been a goal to get over here, fascinating big car market. So I'm the new boy in town still in many ways, but very, very much enjoying the time over here. I think, coming with that global view, I just know Volkswagen is such a strong brand, and we've come over here and there's a lot of good work that we can do and are doing together. So it's a very exciting place to be. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
So what is your primary role within the company? Like, what is your day-to-day main trajectory?
I look after the market-facing functions of the brand.
We don't have enough time for him to answer that. You'll have to allow more time. Yeah, with everything on Duncan's plate. Yeah, we can't get that in 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it. And so, John, you said there's something. How important the relationship? You called it the Three Musketeers. You said the brand, the captive finance, and its dealer body. Can you talk about that concept a little bit?
Yeah, it's something we started about 2.5 years ago, and Duncan joined us right about that time, and it's something that we have really pushed. And if you those are your three main arms, we're tied to each other. One way or another, you're not going to get away from it. I'm tied to the brand, right? If he doesn't build or give me Volkswagens, I don't have Volkswagens to sell. If I don't sell Volkswagens, he doesn't get them sold. And if I don't have that captive finance, if VCI is not behind me and I can't make that relationship, we're not going to get to the levels that the other OEMs that we're competing against that have done such a good job of building that have done. And so we've spent a tremendous amount of time of putting that back together, changing our meetings to where sometimes I was having a meeting or my team was having a meeting with VCI, or we were having it with the brand, but not together. Mm-hmm. Now we meet together. We get everybody in the same room, just as you say on your cup, and just one mantra for your business is about communication. Duncan and I's goal was to fix our communication, learn to talk to each other. We learned so quickly that half the time the things that weren't happening was because either somebody didn't know, or, oh, well, I thought they told you that, or I thought they were covering that. No different than in my dealership, right?
Yep. And they were probably things that both of you wanted to happen.
Yeah, and things that we thought were, things that I thought he was hearing possibly from VCI that maybe weren't, and things that I thought VCI was hearing from the brand. Yeah, it was maybe going to the right person, but it wasn't getting to the top level where we were all saying, okay, that looks really good on a whiteboard. That made a lot of sense, but in the real world with a real customer, and I'm in front of them, guys, it doesn't work that simple. Well, you're kidding. Well, why not? And then we have those discussions and we look at it. And I promise you, that's what Duncan has brought to us so huge, you can't imagine, is to be able to have those conversations, because he's our first guy that has some marketing background. In the past, we've dealt with brilliant German people, loved them all, but they were engineers, and 2 and 2 equaled 4, always. And there was a black line and it made sense. Duncan understands that in the car business, right? No two deals are the same.
That's right.
It never looks the same. No two markets are the same. So how do we grow from it? How do we help? And how do we take 640 dealers and raise that tide so that all boats come up? And in 41 years, I've dealt with a lot of guys like Duncan. There aren't any guys like Duncan. This guy understands both sides. He'll sit and talk to you and give you the 2 + 2 = 4 and lay it out completely. But then he can also say, but I see in your world where it's kind of gray, where, yeah, if you had a few more of this, you could have done that. You could have caught a trade. That trade would have done this. Yep. And those conversations are incredibly refreshing to have.
Well, we're going to take just a quick pause. When we come back from this, Duncan, I'm going to ask you about when the pandemic first started rolling out, what was the thought process behind what Volkswagen's response was going to be for its dealer body? So I'm going to ask that in just a second. But first, this is, I'm happy to say, this segment is sponsored by my company, Congruent. It's my agency, so of course, I'm going to have some nice things to say about it. But seriously, though, I believe Congruent is much, much more than a marketing agency. It's a living, breathing proof that business is more meaningful when people connect on a human level. And all of our work, from the most humble banner ad to the most cinematic pieces that we produce, and they're beautiful, they're all crafted with the aim to connect one human being with another human being. But many agencies make good creative, but what separates us is our philosophy. We offer a values-guided framework to all of our brand clients, and it empowers us, or anyone really, including their own marketers, other agencies, their own internal teams, their leadership, to create brand-first content that not only markets to the retail customer, but also aligns their team behind what they believe. And so if you want to learn more about Congruent and what we can do for your dealership, go to congruentstory.com. We would love to jump on a call or just talk about how we could. Thank you, John, for the visual. Amazing. And we are a connection agency. John, nobody knows more about what I just said, not because we've worked in a professional relationship, just you believe that human connection model. I've watched more than several of your outreach pieces and seen your culture in firsthand, and you really embody the philosophy that when you can connect people to one another, you can win. So use you as example, even though you're not a Congruent client. Okay, Duncan, getting back into this conversation, Duncan, a pandemic starting to roll out across the U.S. You're based in Virginia, is that true? Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, so you're on the East Coast as this is rolling out. Virginia didn't roll out. It didn't roll out the same as it did in New York, which was pretty close. So you had a minute to think about it. What was kind of the first conversations and responses within the Volkswagen organization? I'm like, what are we going to have to do to support our dealers through this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, even before you talk about the pandemic, a lot of what we've done through this period together with John and the rest of the team very much has been, for me, a culmination of everything we've been trying to do together over the last few years. You know, you don't suddenly create relationships in a crisis. The relationships are built up over time. We've really worked, as John was saying, on communication, on transparency, on partnership. So when you come into a crisis like this, the thoughts very much are, of course, for your dealers. I think I would say a couple of things. You know, firstly, we've got real variety across the US in terms of what's happening with COVID. Some markets really shut down. Other markets, you know, actually having better years than last year. So we needed to make sure that those markets that were selling could sell, had product, had good offers. So we really worked hard on that. And equally for those dealers who were closed up because of local legislation, that some of the costs that they incur are supported by the brand. So we were looking to just bring support, bring an approach that, you know, we're trying to bring the whole time. And what I'd say to you is I think a crisis period like this, you can accelerate the relationship. We've been on, I think, a good journey. We've still got a long way to go. You can accelerate it or you can derail it. I think people remember, how did you respond when it was tough, when I didn't have cars, when my business was closed? Were you there to stand by me as a partner or not? And we very much took a very conscious decision right up front to say, we're not sure how this is going to play out in full. We can see it's big. We need to act. We need to act fast. We need to communicate. And John and I set up, I think, a very good communication cadence. We're talking with the dealer council, at least for the first 2 months of this, every week. We're checking in with John formally another time every week. We're within each region, you know, whether it's a regional council, an LMA, let's have a good conversation with a group of dealers, talk about our support, talk about our approach, take the feedback and really try and improve it. So it was a process. It built over particularly the first 2 months of the COVID crisis, actually.
John, you were on the other side of that process representing the dealers within the dealer body. So from your perspective and just in your experience, you told me that you guys were having a lot of calls and those really frequent calls were one of the reasons you feel like you weathered the storm better than most. So tell me, what did it look like? Like, what concerns were dealers bringing to you to move up the chain, and kind of how did the pandemic communication, how did that look from your seat?
You know, Duncan and his team just had some incredible conversations with us about where can they be effective with us? What are funds that possibly we've got coming further in the year? What are funds that get paid, say, quarterly? Can we pay those monthly? Can we pay them weekly? Can we move some things around in service? Where is funds moving?
So financial relief was a big part of this.
Yeah, no question. Yes. Standing behind us, looking at that, cashing contracts faster, moving on different things. I'll call you back. Sorry about that.
That's all good.
Just business. Yeah. So having great conversations each day and looking for those and what made sense and what would work for the brand and what would work for us, whether it be from floor plan assistance or mobility assistance, how do we get to customers? What can be done on the websites? What daily? We had these conversations, we moved dollars around, pushed things to the end, made business decisions, right? That felt comfortable, that both sides were involved in and got to describe. And you know what? When you know that, and when it gets done that way, boy, the buy-in was fantastic. And as I told you, I believe our brand came through it as well or better. I believe better, but at least as well as anybody else came through. We've had some great success stories with our dealers, and some of them are just now coming out. But the difference was they were in a position, there was still cash flow. You could, if you got shut down, as our good friends in the Northeast and many in the Pacific side did, gosh, they may have gone 3 to 4 to 5 weeks without selling. Duncan and his team said, okay, so whatever incentives we got to do, we got to look, will they be long enough when that market comes back? Got to give them the same. The treatment was transparent. It was clear. Don't worry, your time will come. And guess what? Right now, those markets are doing fantastic. Pent-up demand. Those customers were there. They helped us with everything from social media and everything. Hey, we know the time's not right, but when the time is right, there's still going to be offered. So please, we appreciate your patience. Can we come to you? Gosh, they paid us money to actually, through our service departments, to go deliver the car to people's houses, bring the car back. They looked at what does it take for us to continue to do business, not to go make a bunch of money, but get through this, see the other side, be prepared once this market turns and comes back as it's doing today. I think our dealers are very prepared and ready to rock and roll.
What do you think? So we all come from families, and we all share, we share the same last name with our families, and we know families are all different levels of dysfunction. And oftentimes we hear a lot of dysfunctional relationships between dealers and OEMs. No two dealers have the same perspective on what that is. You come across as very positive toward the OEM dealer relationship. So for those and other manufacturers, the other OEMs listening in, the other dealer council members and dealer council chairs that might be listening in, from your perspective, John, what do you think is really at the essence of cultivating that relation from the dealer side? So you're speaking to other dealers.
And once again, I'm going to give Duncan a bunch of this credit, is that he has helped us understand that neither side can stand alone.
Yep.
Right. He's got to be able to do it. The brand has got to be able to make cars. They've got to be able to make a reasonable profit for us to be profitable. Let's be realistic. I mean, Toyota makes plenty of money. Lexus we can name any brand we want, the big ones that do it, but they make it fair and they work with both sides. His team and our team are trying to work through that, right? Is how do we do that? How are the conversations? I can't buy Volkswagens from somebody else, right? I'm tied. It's my franchise agreement. It's all the things of what it is. So once again, the three musketeers. How do we look at that as the three of us and say, okay, how can we best work together to drive that? If I give VCI more contracts, right, that puts them in a position to buy deeper, to do more, right? They've got more. They're making money. Helping the brand turn units, taking units, working through it. Now I'm making money, they're making money, and we continue to grow. And we continue to learn and have the ability to have the conversations that we have. You can stand on the other side and say, let's throw the rep out. They're from the government. They're not here to help. It's all going to be bad. And that's what it'll be. But somewhere along the way, opening those relationships, working with the region, talking to them, explaining, look, this is what I'm up against. Otherwise, they won't know it. I mean, I feel like we've learned a lot from Duncan. I think Duncan's learned quite a bit from us about how we sell cars differently in the U.S. And he's taught us it didn't sell like this in England, right, Duncan?
He did not.
Yeah, Duncan. Well, kind of the same question to you. So other OEMs watch the program, and so from the other side of the fence, on the OEM side, trying to deal with relationships that might be contentious at times and dysfunctional, and a lot of legacy. You came into this position, you inherited all the legacy of everybody before you, and you had to kind of start from there. You didn't get to start from scratch. So what would you say to the other OEMs on what you see their role to be in order to cultivate a healthy relationship, even in the midst of some that might be a little bit dysfunctional? What's the OEM to do?
Yeah, look, I think I would say to you, I still see our brand as very much, I describe it as on a journey, a work in progress. I think we had a long way to go, and we certainly don't hold ourselves up as the gospel on relationships with dealers. But I'll talk to you about the principles that we apply. And hopefully that's of some
good.
help to
Yes.
the listeners. Look, I think obviously any dealer needs to make some sort of commercial return. You often hear people in the industry say strong correlation between how dealers feel about the franchise and about profit. I think it is important. I think there are other important things which I'll touch on in a moment. But one thing we've tried to do is just look at the business through the eyes of a dealer, through the eyes of an investor who's put their own money, and John's a great example of that, fully invested into the franchise. How do we create at least a framework for profit? It's not going to say every dealer is going to be profitable on every deal, but at least we've got to have a way for a dealer to make a return with the business. So we've looked at the new car business, at the used car business, in after sales. What are the measures that we can take to actually make this a more profitable franchise for our dealers? I think then, we've touched on communication, and actually it just has to be straightforward. We're colleagues. We've got the same goal. We need to sell cars and make money together. We need to service customers' business together and make money out of that as well. So let's just work together, because I think if we do that, we're going to have a better run at it. So certainly communication has been key. And I think the whole thing has to just be underpinned by a belief system in the brand, in the product that's coming, in the relationship. And as I say, it's a work in progress. I see us as a work in progress. We're not here to say Volkswagen's got it right by any means. I think a long way to go, but step by step, I believe we improve. I think the approach that John and the rest of the dealer council has brought has been fundamentally very positive. And we're on a good trajectory together, but plenty that we can still improve on, no doubt about that.
Very good. No, that's very helpful, I think. We do have just a minute or two left, so I would like to end with your perspective. And I know everyone's kind of has maybe not a gut feel, but like, what do you think the next 12 months is going to look like? Duncan, I'll go for you and we'll end with John. What do you think the next 12 months is going to look like for Volkswagen?
Look, what I'm seeing, even in the last 1-2 months, is strong recovery. And I think it's difficult for us to say exactly where that's going to net out. But, we're in a strong recovery phase now. John referenced, the markets that are coming back. Our Northeast region is probably going to sell more cars this month than it did 12 months ago. So I think we'll see a little bit of a suppressed industry. But for us, it's an incredibly exciting time. As a brand, we're bringing out our first electric vehicle. We've got another SUV that we're adding to the stable in the middle of next year. So 12 months from now, we're a 5 SUV brand. And I think that's hugely exciting. We haven't had a product portfolio like that before. So I'm excited. I think we're going to grow our share. We're going to continue the work that we're doing. And to say we stay humble, we're very hungry to succeed in the market, but we've got a long way to go. But I think it's an exciting 12 months. I really do. I think getting that electric vehicle is huge for us, and it's looking extremely positive.
Well, there are more than a few people on my team looking forward to the bus, that's for sure. And they wanted me to make sure I told you that while we were together. He's laughing over there right now. John, we're going to end with you. What is your gut telling you? What do you think the next 12 months looks like for you, just individually as a dealer, street Volkswagen?
There's a saying I get kidded about a lot. I tell people I sit on my hands to keep from clapping. That's how good my world is. So with this brand right now and the way that we're looking, I've been very fortunate with Duncan and others to sit on some other councils. Our EV council is brilliant, and where we're taking that and how we're going to come with this vehicle. And is it for everybody? No. Will it be a 30 share? Who knows? Will it be a 20 share? Will it be a 10? No, but there will be a market for it. And eventually we are headed that way. Has this possibly set it back a touch? Maybe, dollar fuel, down around $1.10. It's big vehicles, trucks, can't touch them. The market's pretty strong. But for us, with the 5th SUV coming that he's talking about that we're going to bring out of Mexico, that's just a super cool vehicle. I think that's a big difference. And then the continuation of, like we've talked about at the beginning of this call, this relationship that's building and building between us and our dealer bodies, and really getting ourselves aligned that we have product, we have the right cars to sell. We have incredible communications between what we're going to build all the way down. Finally, color-wise, we're looking at markets where it's a big difference from what we started 7 years ago to where we are today, and really being partners. And so for me, I need the sunglasses. That's why I give them to people. The future is that bright.
I love it.
We got to work with it, and we appreciate you letting us have an opportunity to talk like this, because we are a different company than we were 3 years ago, definitely more than 5 years ago. And we're really, I sit in a 20 group with 20 other dealers, and I think of our conversations from 4 years ago to the amazing emails that I've had over the few days. And I think from Duncan's side, I think what was amazing is from the very first phone call of the very first day, you could tell that Duncan's attitude was, we're going to run toward this, not away from it. Let's go. Let's see what it is. Let's get as much as we can get and see where it goes. the
love
0%, the 72, the 180 days, the huge things that we did as a smaller brand that were bigger than the bigger brands, people really took attention to. And I've got a showroom full of people right now that are still out there loving the deals that are there. The deals are amazing.
Well, that's a great way to sum it up. I think it really sums up this: no crisis can win, really embodying that mentality. John, Duncan, thank you so much for giving some time and opening the book a little bit to what it looks like on the back end of a dealer OEM relationship. Gentlemen, we'll talk soon. I can't thank you enough.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.